Hi, my name is David Coletta, and I'm going to take you on a little tour of how to use Zoom to participate in Meeting for Worship or Meeting for Business. I'm going to do this on the Mac, Windows, iPhone, Android, and Chromebook. So we'll give you guides to where to skip around in the video so that you can find the one that's appropriate for you. Let's start with the Mac. The very most important thing that you need to know on the Mac is where the mute button is. The mute button is in the lower left corner, and you can identify it not only by the word mute, but also by the microphone with the green bar indicating the volume level. When you want to mute your microphone so that no one can hear you, you click on this button and you get a red slash through the microphone and also a little red microphone with a slash through it icon in the lower left corner. It's very important to be able to mute your microphone when you don't want other people to hear your background sounds or when you just want privacy. You can also mute and unmute the microphone with the keyboard shortcut Command-Shift-A, or while you're muted, you can use the space bar to temporarily unmute simply by holding it down. Note that will only work when Zoom is the active application on your Mac. The next button that I'd like to show you is the Start Video button. The Start Video button turns on your camera and sends your video to other participants. So when you click it, other people can see you, like this. You may want to turn your video off if there's a lot of distracting activity on your camera or if you just want privacy. The next thing I'd like to show you is the Participants window. That's this button right here. When you click it, you see a list of other participants in the meeting. The participants list is sorted so that you'll see the hosts and co-hosts at the top. Then you'll see people who are unmuted, and then you'll see everybody else. And within each group, it's sorted by name in alphabetical order. While you're here, let me show you the raise hand button, which is another thing that you'll need to use during Meeting for Business when you want to be recognized by the clerk. The next thing I'd like to show you is the chat button. When you click the chat button, it brings up a chat window. By default, you'll be able to chat with everyone or individual participants, but that might be different in different meetings because it's possible for the host to control who you can chat with. The most important thing to be able to do is chat with one of the host co-hosts to get help with technical problems you might be having. I'd also like to show you how you can rename yourself. Your name will appear in the lower left corner of your camera window to other participants, and you may want it to reflect something different from what it shows by default. To do that, you'll bring up the participants window, and then you'll hover over your own name, click on the More button, and choose Rename. So for example, if I would prefer that other people see me as David C. rather than David Coletta, I would just make that change. And now other people will see me as David C. Finally, 2 quick points about what might happen if your internet is running slow. People might start to hear your voice garbled or see your video freeze up. If this starts to happen, you can help out by turning off your video. So that would be this button here, right here. So you'd click this, and that would turn your video off. And finally, if you need even more help with that, what you can do is disconnect your audio by doing Leave Computer Audio from the Unmute Buttons menu, and then dialing in over the phone. Now let's look at the same thing on Windows 10. It's almost exactly the same as on the Mac, but there are a couple of subtle differences, so let's review the whole thing again. The most important button on your screen that you need to know about is the mute button. The mute button is what allows you to turn your microphone on and off. You turn your microphone off to reduce background noises, or if you want some privacy. To mute yourself, click on the button and notice that it turns into a button with a red slash over it. When the red slash is present, that means you're muted. You'll also see this little red icon of a microphone with a slash through it in your square in the lower left corner. you can also use the keyboard shortcut Alt-A to mute yourself. The next button I'd like to show you is the Start Video button. That's the button you press to turn on your video so other participants can see it. Like this. You'd typically turn your video off if you wanted more privacy, or again, if there are distracting images in the background, although we do like to see cats. The next thing I'd like to show you is the Participants window. You get to that by clicking on this Participants button here, and you see a list of all the participants in the meeting. By the way, the list of participants is sorted. You can find the host and the co-hosts at the top. Then you'll see all the people who are unmuted, and then you'll see everybody else. And within each section, it's sorted alphabetically by name. In the Participants window, there's a couple things that are important to know about. The first is this little blue Raise Hand button. When you click on that, it means you want to be recognized. And if you change your mind, you can click on it again and lower your hand. The other thing I'd like to show you from here is the ability to rename yourself. You might want to rename yourself so that, for example, you show only your first name and last initial. To do that, you hover over your name, then you click on the More button, then you click on Rename. And now you can type whatever you want here. I'm just going to change it to David C. And then that's what other people will see. The next thing I'd like to show you is the chat window. You get to that by clicking on the chat button. The chat window lets you send a chat message to either everyone or one participant. And the host of the meeting may restrict who you can send chat messages to. Typically, you would send a message to one recipient when you needed technical assistance. You would change this drop-down, look for a host or co-host, and send them a message asking for help. Finally, I'd like to talk about a couple of things that you should know about if your internet is getting really slow. One thing that you can do to help other people hear you better is turn off your video. And that's done with this same Start Video, Stop Video button. If you need more help with reduced bandwidth, what you can also do is disconnect your audio from the app and then dial in on a plain old telephone. So first you would click on this little menu item here next to the mute button, and you'd say Leave Computer Audio. That would disconnect computer audio, and then you can dial into the meeting using the dial-in phone number. This is what Zoom looks like on the iPhone. It's pretty different from Mac and Windows, but the basics are the same. In the lower left, there's an unmute button, and when you tap on it, others can hear your audio, and the red slash will disappear to let you know that your audio is available. Similarly, there's a button to start your video, and when you tap on that, others can see your video. If you'd like to rename yourself, you can bring up the Participants window by tapping on Participants. Then you can tap on your name and tap on Rename and change it, for example, to your full name, or just your last initial if you want more privacy. From this window, you can also raise hand to ask to be recognized by the clerk, just by tapping on the Raise Hand button. Notice there's a little blue hand next to your name, and the clerk will see that too. While you're waiting to be recognized, you realize you no longer need to speak, you can come back here and tap on Raise Hand again to lower your hand. If you'd like to chat with someone or with everyone, you can tap on More and then tap on Chat. When you're in chat, you'll have a choice to send to everyone or just individual person. Sometimes the choice to send to everyone or to individual person will be disabled by the host. Typically, you'd want to chat with an individual person like a co-host if you're having technical difficulties. You may find yourself in a screen that looks like this. If you're here, it's because you swiped left, either accidentally or on purpose. This is safe driving mode, and you might use this if you're in a car and you don't want your video and you want to only be unmuted by tapping and then tapping again to mute yourself. Finally, you may have noticed that the controls are always visible in this video. Your iPhone may not be set that way, and if it's not and you'd like to change it, you can go into More, Meeting Settings, and then change the setting for Always Show Meeting Controls from on to off, which will give you more screen real estate to see other people, or back on if you'd like to make sure the controls are always available. One more thing. On the iPhone, you'll only ever see 4 other participants at a time, and you swipe to get to the screens where all the other participants are visible. This is what Zoom looks like on an Android phone. You can tap the screen to see the controls. The most important control is the mute-unmute button in the lower left corner. To unmute yourself so others can hear you, tap the button. When you tap it, the red slash will disappear. When you want to mute yourself, tap the screen, then tap the mute button again. The video button works very similarly. When you see a red slash through the video button, that means your video is off. Tap the button to turn your video on. In the participants window, you can see all the people who are in the meeting with you. Tap the screen, then tap participants to bring up that window. If you'd like to rename yourself so that maybe you have a little more privacy, you can tap your name, then tap rename, and perhaps switch to just first name and last initial. In this window, the participants window, you can also raise your hand. Just tap on the raise hand button at the bottom. That signifies that you'd like to be recognized by the clerk. If while you're waiting to be recognized, you realize you no longer need to speak, you can come back here and tap raise hand again to lower your hand. Another way to raise your hand is to tap on More, where you'll find the raise hand button. And you can tap again to lower your hand. You can also get to the chat window from More. Tap on More, then tap on Chat. From this window, you can choose to chat either with everyone or an individual. Sometimes the host will disable the ability to chat with everyone or with an individual. Typically, you'd chat with an individual if you needed technical assistance. If you find yourself on this screen, safe driving mode, you swiped right, either on purpose or by accident. This is useful if you're driving and you don't want other people to see your video and you don't want them to hear you unless you tap to unmute and then tap again when you're done. Finally, if you're wondering where the other participants are, you get to them by swiping left, where you'll see 4 of them at a time. This is what Zoom looks like on the Chromebook. On the Chromebook, the buttons at the bottom are hidden by default, and you have to click somewhere to make them show up. The most important button you'll need to know about is the mute button. I'll click so that you can see it. The mute button is in the lower left corner. When it's red with a slash through it, that means you're muted and no one else can hear you. When you want to unmute so that people can hear you, click on the button. It turns to an outline of a microphone, and that's how you know that people can hear you. The Start Video button works the same way. From the Participants window, you can rename yourself and you can raise your hand. We'll click on the Participants button, and you can see the Raise Hand button is this blue button in the lower left corner. When you want to be recognized by the clerk, click the Raise Hand button. The clerk will be able to tell that you're waiting to speak. If, while you're waiting to be recognized, you realize that you're no longer led to speak, click the button again, and your hand will go down. After you're recognized to speak, if you don't lower your hand, one of the tech hosts will do it for you. If you'd like to rename yourself, click on your own name in the Participants window, then click on Rename. You can edit your name here. For example, if I'd like a little more privacy, I could change it to be just my first name and last initial. When you're done with this window, click on Close. By the way, the Raise Hand button is also available from the More menu. It's right here. It makes it a little easier to get to when you need it.